what percentage of the construction acquisition do you typically loan on? What are you looking to do in that kind of?
Yeah, so the speed that we use, because we're not like a typical bank, right? Or I'm not a bank at all. So I don't need your W-2s and tax returns. So you say, how do you derive the decision on a deal then if I don't need to know anything about very little about the borrower? I need to be right on my values. So I typically go up to, most lenders you'll find start their calculation around 65% of the after repair value. That means they'll go up to 65% of the resale value. If you think the house is going to resell for $100,000, that means they'll typically allocate towards construction and acquisition $65,000, 65% of 100. So that's usually the starting point, and that number can flex in either direction based on a number of things. But I typically go up to most of the 65. I think you got some feedback there. Oh, there we go. So that's typically what you'll see in the event that you're going to ask me for a starting point, but that can flex just depending on the quality of the borrower. Maybe is the area shaky? We have a couple areas around here that pretty dicey. You go to brewery town, Philadelphia, and man, you got to be careful. So that 65 can become 60 or 55 real quick if you don't have comps on the block. So, but 65% is a pretty good starting point.
It's always nice to have some skin in the game from the gentleman actually asking for the money. So how much, here's the important question everybody wants to know. What does hard money cost?
So skin in the game, as far as skin in the game, are you saying how much cash to close or how much does it cost?
A little bit of both. I mean, what kind of percentage rates are we talking? What is the closing cost like?
Sure. So skin in the game, I typically, I usually tell people 15 to 20% on a deal that we see eye to eye on is going to be the cash to close. Meaning if you need $100,000, I'm probably going to see 15 or 20 grand that you're going to bring to the table to make me comfortable that we're going to sweat a little bit side by side. If I don't see eye to eye on the after repair value, that could be higher. Also, though, people ask me a lot about 100% funding and so forth. And hey, do you fund 100%? Yes, I do. The 100% that you're asking me about and the 100% I'm talking about are two different things. 100% funding in the event that I'm funding 100% of construction and acquisition up to a certain number, meaning I escrow the construction funds. Anything above that number, you'd be responsible for. The 100% funding that people want from 2007 can also be done, but it's not going to be done without skin in the game in some way, meaning we'll cross collateralize. So if you have other properties, and I have a lot of investors like this, they might own something free and clear. They paid $100,000 for it. If I bring that into the mix of the process, that could contribute up to $100,000 or $60,000 worth of cash into the deal. So you could come to the table with no money down. That's what people really ask me, no money down. So that's in the event for how much skin in the game we like to see. We can get pretty darn creative. We're probably the most creative in the area in terms of being able to get deals done. In regards to your question about cost, so you're going to see things all over the board in our world, and that's a whole different conversation. But you're going to see typically 1 year notes. You see some people at 6 month notes, and it's usually going to be money's going to be about 12 to 16% interest over 1 year, and it's going to be anywhere from like 2 to 6 points. People who don't, or their first experience with it, are like, well, I can go to a bank and get it for 6%. It's like, no, you can't, or you can try to close in a week and get that done. Or B, you can understand how short-term money works because it's interest only for up to 1 year. The easiest way to look at it is if you have, let's say, a 12% note or 14% note, the money is going to run you about 1 point a month or 1.17% a month for up to a year. So how fast you are at executing and reselling the deal will determine how much you actually pay for that. So if you're in and out in, say, 3 months or 4 months, you paid like 6 or 7%. If you're in and out in 12 months, on a 16% loan and 6 points, you just paid 22%. So the speed of the borrower is really the biggest concern of how cheap the money is going to end up being for them. And that's why, that's how it works. It's short-term money versus amortized over a 25-year period.
So I love the connections that we have in common, with some of the other gentlemen that are realtors that really are just out there hustling, and I'm attracted to that. And the fact of the matter is that I know a lot of the people that have lent money to and watched what they do with their properties. And most of them, some of the people have sold their properties through me. And typically, we have those properties sold before they're even finished. And we have them under contract, which is really just is very advantageous. And, I'm not trying to like sit here and say like, get a realtor, but if you want to get that property sold and you don't want to go to that year mark, rather than, having the property done and sold upon completion, upon getting that CO for the property, you should really think about dealing with a professional.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can't.
That way you're not paying those points every month.
I can't stress enough. Like if you came to me first in a hard money loan and said you're not going to use a realtor, I'd say I'm not doing the deal. Like you have to use a realtor on the out. And then absolutely, if you can get a polished realtor or somebody that's dominating your area, I'd love to have, if I had a house personally in the area, I'd be coming to you because, and I'm not, I'm not advertising you. I'm saying you're really the guy I would go to because I watch what you do compared to anybody else online. I know there's a lot of effort going into moving properties and getting things sold and being good at it. So absolutely have a realtor. You should have them on both ends, quite frankly, because I'm a huge fan of realtors. A lot of people think that like investors and realtors are different. Not the case. So an investor is just a realtor without a license to some capacity. It's just, it's not much of a difference. But the best realtors and the best people I deal with in this industry are the realtors that find good deals, and then they, we go ahead and fund it, and then they resell the house. They're familiar with the house, they're familiar with the borrower, they're familiar with the process, they know the area, they do both sides of the sales, they feed the flipper needs them, right? The flipper needs the source of properties because if you have a realtor who doesn't know how to spot a deal, then they're not going to flip any houses. But if you have a good investor-friendly realtor, not only should you do the deal with them, hold on tight to them because I know people make a lot of money with them, but you absolutely should have them do the resale on the property. And from a lender's perspective, I feel a lot more comfortable with a realtor that was able to identify a deal because they knew it was a deal, which means they know how to price a deal, which means I know they're going to put it at the right price on the way out. So all that stuff makes me feel comfortable as a lender. And I recommend it because realtors can make a very nice living doing just that, both sides of the deal.
Well, I mean, the one thing, especially down here, a lot of our investors are coming from outside this area. It's a Philly, it's in North Jersey, and they can come down there and they can look at the street and say 24th Street looks great. Well, right where they're buying the house is where the flooding starts. So maybe there is that 5 or 10% difference in where they're at compared to two houses down, or we know the neighbor behind you is a complete mess. And the fact remains that without that firsthand knowledge. Now, there's a lot of flippers that do everything on their own, and I give them 100% credit, but they're really in tune with the market. Just like Philadelphia, you can go half a block to a block, or you can be talking about a building that's right across the street from another that, maybe you have, down here at least, maybe you have 4 owners in that one condo complex, and 3 of them are just a complete pain in the ass. And there's a reason why that property is selling at 5 or 10% below what the comps are showing. And just because you fix that property up and think it's going to be comping out at some of the neighbors, you may not know that condo association, because you're paying cash, doesn't have a solid association. There's no insurance on the building.
Yep.
So like if everyone else owns cash and you're buying cash, there may not be condo insurance on that building. And when you go to flip it to somebody, you're only going to have a cash buyer. So I know for a fact that your market, especially in Philadelphia, and you rely on people like myself and others, to give you that honest appraisal and to absolutely know the market 100%. And I don't know the answer to this, but I have a pretty good idea.
Okay.
What percentage of properties do you guys end up taking back?
Really, 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 really low. It's really low. So we do a very good job with way less than a bank. It's crazy. People would think that we take a lot. We're in this business, but it is, it's under 1%. And if you're at that point, honestly, we try to make it work. Like, we're not here to take your house. I don't want your house ever, 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 ever. So we try to make it work out. We try to make sense of it. We try to work with our clients. And therefore, that actual foreclosure is, people call me all the time saying, hey, do you have any foreclosures I can buy? And I'm like, sorry, it's a clean portfolio. Like, I don't have anything for you. If I do, I'll let you know. But, we really try to work with our clients. And that is definitely a, you know, reputation this business has, a loan to own. Maybe some companies are like that. We are definitely not. It's just,
and I'm assuming that if you've analyzed the loan the way that I know you analyze these loans, and for whatever reason the borrower goes into default and can't pay you, you already know that that's a solid deal. And whether they came into a problem with the construction office or couldn't get their contractor out to do what they needed to be done, I'm sure you have people that are just willing to scoop up those deals and finish your project and make the money on the out sales.
Sure. Like, you know, I have people call me for that all the time. I think there's just a misconception that that's the case, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it takes a lot to get in that position, you know, for somebody to be in that position with us, honestly.